GameTrailers is a media website that specializes in video game-related content. It provides free access to original programming, game trailers and recorded gameplay. Along with standard definition, many of the video clips are offered in high-resolution HD. Users can upload watch videos, create blogs, and participate in forums. On the past version of GameTrailers, users could join and create factions, which had their own private forums. Factions were cut when the website was revamped, along with the GTD currency system, as well as forum levels. Content history: GameTrailers' first version of its magazine-style show was GT Weekly and premiered in August 2005, hosted by Amanda McKay and Daniel Kaiser. After 44 episodes, in March 2007, the show was rebranded as Game One and given a live chat where viewers could talk about the show. In February 2007, Screw Attack started providing content including top 10s, video game vault entries and episodes of The Angry Video Game Nerd for GameTrailers. Shortly after, Spike's Gamehead also started to cooperate with GameTrailers. On January 25, 2008, Game One was replaced by GameTrailers TV, the rebranded version of Spike TV's Gamehead, still hosted by Jeff Keighley, but produced by GameTrailers and co-hosted by Amanda McKay and Daniel Kaiser. The show appears at 12:30 a.m. on Spike every Thursday night. On June 27, 2012, GameTrailers launched their new website design, which included a revamped homepage, upgraded message boards, and new animated graphics for reviews. List of shows hosted by GameTrailers. Invisible Walls. Invisible Walls was a video blog podcast run by the staff of GameTrailers with director of editorial Ryan Stevens as the main host and freelance journalist Marcus Beer, who originally came to the show on a bi-weekly basis as the ever-angry character Grumpy McGrump, as co-host. The podcast was originally hosted by former editor-in-chief Shane Satterfield until he left GameTrailers after episode 238. They were often joined by a rotating panel of GT editors including Justin Speer, Daniel Bloodworth, Mike Damiani, Patrick Morales, Chris Nguyen, and Miguel Lopez. The show's debut episode was recorded on March 13, 2008 and published the following day. The podcast was a semi-roundtable discussion show in which the GameTrailers staff members discussed various ongoings in the video game industry, including new video game releases and controversies. The show underwent a couple of major overhauls throughout its run. For its 100th episode, the show introduced new visual graphics and stopped censoring profanities. On the show's 200th episode, which was streamed and recorded live for the milestone occasion, the show began recording with the hosts on camera and the hosts' avatars were no longer used, although the hosts were seen recording on camera for episode 150 and had to record themselves without being seen one last time on episode 201, due to not having cameras on hand at the 2012 Game Developers Conference and for the new Invisible Walls studio to be prepared. The podcast ended after publishing episode 284 on January 17, 2014. It was initially replaced by a short-lived show called Thanks for Playing, which lasted until April 25, 2014, with a true final episode published on June 27, 2014. A later revival podcast called GT Time, which features some of the Invisible Walls regulars including Damiani and Bloodworth, debuted on March 14, 2014. Other shows: GT Countdown, a top 10 list of video games and video game-related subjects. GT Wish List, a compilation of all things the GameTrailers team wishes will be in an upcoming game. Usually the game has divulged very little information about itself at the point of the release of the wish list, thus there is a lot of speculation as to what the game could be. Bonus Round, a panel show hosted by Jeff Keighley, typically featuring 3 guests who are some combination of game developers, industry journalists and/or industry financial experts. The show focuses not just on critical analysis of particular games but also on the process of game development as well as publishing, sales, marketing, and business practices in the gaming industry. The Final Bosman, a weekly show hosted by Carl Bosman airing Wednesdays, where he talks about current gaming topics from his perspective with humorous quips. Trailer Score, a weekly show, in which Brandon Jones, Carl Bosman and Daniel Bloodworth discuss and rate the newest video game trailers. GT Time, a weekly podcast show hosted by Carl Bosman, in which a panel discuss the latest video game-related news stories and make bets about what will happen during the next week. Baddest Games, a weekly show hosted by Rob Slusser, where he talks in an intentionally awkward manner about video games that got bad reviews by the press and therefore were good in his opinion. According to his Twitter account, Slusser will no longer be with GameTrailers in the wake of Defy Media acquiring the company. GTTV, an informative show on the gaming industry and upcoming games hosted by Jeff Keithley. GT Previews of upcoming games. Level, a show where the GameTrailers team talks about their favorite levels from their favorite games. GT Reviews of various video games that are scored on a 1.0 through 10.0 scale. As of their Dead Space 3 review in 2013, GameTrailers has stopped providing separate sub-scores and segments for different elements of a game in favor of more cinematic videos, and the people who reviewed the game and edited the video are now mentioned in the intro. GT Review Pods, shorter video reviews for independent, downloadable and or lesser-known video games or game content. After the 2012 revamp, the name was discontinued, but the shorter reviews are still made on a regular basis. Until 2013, these shorter reviews did not have different segments for the different elements of a game, but they still had the now discontinued sub-scores. Retrospectives, a history of the stories of video game franchises usually in multiple parts. GT Pop Block, a closer look on game trailers showing the findings of GameTrailers staff in that specific trailer. Anthology, a collection of the essential entries in the virtual library of video game greatness. The Angry Video Game Nerd, video game review rant starring and created by James Rule from Cinemassacre Productions, about a frustrated video game reviewer who plays games from the 80s and 90s. Pack Attack, a show hosted by financial analyst Michael Pachter where he answers questions submitted by GameTrailers users regarding the video game industry from a financial perspective. Pop Fiction, short 5 to 10 minute episodes that center around myths and urban legends in video games. Timeline, an in-depth look into the chronology, history, and story progression of popular gaming franchises. Currently, only The Legend of Zelda and Kingdom Hearts have received this treatment. Top 100 Trailers of All Time, a top 100 countdown list of the best video game trailers ever made as determined by the GameTrailers staff, which ran throughout September 1 to October 8, 2011. The first 4 episodes focused on a score of various game trailers and the top 20 trailers each received their own individual episode, all with commentary on each selection. Honorable mentions were also displayed during the episodes and the final episode focused on the 10 video game trailers voted the best by GameTrailers viewers. Annoyed Gamer, a now defunct show hosted by Marcus Beer, where he discusses polemic topics that can harm gamers as well as the industry. Mandatory Update, a comedic show on a weekly basis that's presenting the weekly news in humorous fashion hosted by Elise Willems and Ian Hink. Before his firing, Rob Slusser served as a comic relief for the show in between bits. Occasionally the show is replaced by an hour-long podcast known as Mandatory Update Nights. Trailer Academy, a show hosted by founder Brandon Jones analyzing video game trailers and discussing what's making a good video game trailer. Huber Hype, acclaimed hype enthusiast Michael Huber hits terminal velocity each week in the pursuit of ultimate hype. Ladies in the Lobby, this 6-part series provides a female perspective into gaming through a series of interviews with Elise Willems, Andrea Rene, Stephanie Bayer, Mari Takahashi, Jessica Villarreal, and Nicole Zivalich. Tabletop Adventures, Layli Emiliam, Ian Hink, Pervons Toskobel, Andre Heil, Carl Bosman, and Hogger adventure through a devious and hilarious Dungeons & Dragons campaign prepared by Dungeon Master Ben Moore. Also available as a podcast. Business history, GameTrailers.com was founded by Jeff Grotz and Brandon Jones in 2002. John Slusser and his company Hornet Animation invested in the startup, and John took over as CEO. The company was then acquired by MTV Networks in November 2005 for an undisclosed sum. In 2007, MTV Networks restructured its entertainment division, merging ifm.com and SpikeTV.com into Spike.com, and grouping this new property, GameTrailers and XFIRE, into Spike Digital Entertainment, with John Slusser as the new SVP in charge, Jeff Grotz as Vice President of Product Development, and Brad Winters as the new General Manager of GameTrailers.com. In June 2014, GameTrailers was purchased by Defy Media. Soon after, it was reported that senior members of GameTrailers were fired, which is about two-thirds of full-time staff. References. External links, official website.